Hello, Cleveland. This is Alan Keller from the Too Much Effing Perspective podcast, and welcome to Quick Taps, short episodes with short stories for short attention spans. Our theme today is just like a Rolling Stone, Spinal Tap moments that actually revolved around Academy Award-nominated director and all-around strange cat, Oliver Stone. Our first story comes from voiceover star Pete Sepenuk, who got his Heine cast in a Heineken commercial helmed by Stone himself.
So basically, in early 2000, Oliver Stone decided he wanted to direct his very first commercial, and it was for Heineken beer, and it was only going to be shown in Asia. And so he was shooting 3 commercials in a row down in Long Beach, and one of the commercials was going to take place in a bar. And the character that I was auditioning for was funny looking guy walks into a bar. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to dress like a funny looking guy. So I grabbed my parachute pants, my Hawaiian shirt, and my wife's red sequin shirt and went to the audition. And so it turns out I got a call back with Oliver Stone the next day. So I wore the same outfit. I walk in there and he goes, all right, Pete, your last name, is it Sepenuk? I was like, yeah, you're saying it correctly. Yeah. I'm like, totally sucking up to him. And he said, okay, you're just going to walk from one end of the room to the other. Okay, go. So I just walked from one end of the room to the other, and he kind of laughed. And he goes, Pete, let me ask you something. He goes, that shirt you're wearing, that red shirt, well, what is that? I said, you mean what material is it made out of? And he goes, yeah. I said, I don't know, red sequins. My wife gave it to me. He said, okay. He turns to the person next to him and he goes, let's make sure we get that shirt in the wardrobe. I really want that shirt. All right, Pete, thanks for coming in. I was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. I walk out. I was like, he wants the shirt, but not me. The guy's like, well, can you leave it with me with your address and an envelope and I'll mail it back to you? I was like, all right, you tell him if he wants my shirt, I got to be in it for this commercial. She's like, okay. Sure enough, that night she called me. It turns out I got the gig. And he wound up being like the greatest. He wound up taking that commercial and making it all about my character, like changing everything about the whole commercial. He follows me into the bar like it's my story, like I'm the hero of it. Gives me extra things to do, like we totally hit it off. He couldn't have been cooler. It's great. Probably because he liked the shirt better than me, but I don't know, it all worked out.
Our next story comes from actor and Chicago improv legend Dave Pasquesi, who had the stones to be in Oliver's epic flick, Natural Born Killers.
I was part of Robert Downey Jr.'s film crew. He plays, like a Maury Povich kind of guy, right? And Oliver Stone bills it as it's going to be a considerable role. And if you've seen the movie, that's not at all what happened. So every day I'd show up and he would always say, Pasquesi, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm in this scene. Nah, no, you're not, man. Next day, Pasquesi, what are you doing here? Every day, Pasquesi, what are you doing here? I was going to quit. There's no reason for me to be here. But we ended up shooting in Stateville. It was a very serious prison in Illinois that was still operational. And I go running past the camera one day on this take because they're fucking having a riot in the prison with prisoners. And I go running past the camera one day and I go up these stairs and I'm in the middle of the roundhouse. It's that circular prison and they're all just on many levels, just screaming at me. And then the guard comes up to me and starts screaming at me, don't look at him in the eye. I'm like, what the fuck? And so I go back down. Then I'm like, now I'm going to be killed. That's great. Everybody's being killed. I'll stick around for that. I'll stick around to be killed. And on the day that I'm supposed to be killed, he comes up to me and he just goes, just turn around and run away. So I didn't even get that. I figure I'll get all the squibs and blood and everything. Turn around and run away. All right.
And for our final story, we're going to hook up with the voice of Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks, Gary Anthony Williams, whose moment with Stone involves charades, Tom Cruise, and an epidural.
Years ago, my friend Tanya Bershadsky, she gave me and my buddy Cedric Yarbrough a call and said, hey, do you want to go to Larry King's house and do charades for Oliver Stone and Larry King? And we were like, are you screwing with us right now? She's like, nope. So we drive over, and Cedric and I decided we were going to be famous charadists, but also just horrible at it. We're like dressed up in suits, and we told them we're famous charadists. They have no idea who we are. And so, they played charades thinking we were the worst people in the world. And then we just started screwing with them. And I said, hey, Oliver, I heard in the 4th of July, I was like, I heard that you guys were actually going to try to paralyze Tom Cruise so he didn't have to act. And he looked at me with total straight face and he goes, yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah. Like absolutely 100%, no joking. They were going to do some epidural or something on Tom Cruise and paralyze him for the shoot. So yeah, that's part of my day with Oliver Stone.
And knowing how much Tom Cruise likes to do his own stunts, I bet he would have inserted the epidural himself. Yick! And just so you know, in honor of Stone, I put my computer on my adjacent desk so that every time I had to hit record, I had to go back and to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left. Thanks for joining me for today's Quick Tap. Please follow, rate, and write a very generous review for the TMEP show on Apple Podcasts. And tune in next week when my co-host Alex Hoffman and myself return for more Spinal Tap moments on Too Much Effing Perspective.
Although it would be as great as having armadillos in our trousers, this podcast is not affiliated with This Is Spinal Tap, and no person or entity connected with the film has sponsored or endorsed its content. This podcast is not affiliated, sponsored, or licensed by Authorized Spinal Tap LLC or Century of Progress Productions. Too Much Effing Perspective is a Milwaukee Talkies original. Evergreen Podcast Network.